The kingdom of Aetheris was a land of wonder, where magic flowed like rivers, and the very air seemed to hum with arcane energy. But even in this land of enchantment, darkness loomed. A shadowy force, known only as the Obsidian Legion, had emerged from the depths of the Blackened Vale. Their armies, clad in dark armor and wielding weapons of corrupted steel, marched toward Aetheris, leaving destruction in their wake. In the grand hall of the Aetherian palace, the king stood before his council, his face etched with worry. The hall was vast, its walls adorned with tapestries depicting the kingdom's greatest victories. The chandeliers above glowed with enchanted light, casting a soft, golden hue over the room. Among the council stood Eldrin, a young but prodigiously talented wizard. His blue cloak shimmered with arcane energy, its hue shifting like the waves of an enchanted sea. A leather belt with a golden buckle cinched his waist, and his brown boots were scuffed from countless hours of training. "The Obsidian Legion approaches," the king said, his voice heavy with urgency. "Their forces are vast, and their dark magic is unlike anything we have faced before. We need your fire, your power, to turn the tide." Eldrin stepped forward, his sharp eyes meeting the king's. "We will not fail," he said, his voice steady and resolute. The other wizards nodded in agreement, their cloaks billowing as they prepared for battle. Eldrin tightened his belt, his fingers brushing against the golden buckle. He could feel the arcane energy coursing through him, ready to be unleashed. The gathering storm outside mirrored the tension in the room, and Eldrin knew that the battle ahead would test them all. The battlefield was a chaotic tapestry of fire and steel. The Obsidian Legion's forces advanced like a dark tide, their black banners fluttering in the wind. Eldrin stood atop a hill overlooking the fray, his blue cloak billowing behind him. His sharp eyes scanned the enemy ranks, searching for the perfect target. Below him, the Aetherian soldiers clashed with the enemy, their swords ringing against dark steel. Eldrin raised his hands, his fingers crackling with fiery energy. The air around him grew hot, and the ground beneath his boots seemed to tremble. With a swift motion, he conjured a fireball, its flames roaring to life in his palms. He hurled it toward the enemy, the fireball streaking through the air like a comet. It struck a group of soldiers, the explosion sending shockwaves through their ranks. The enemy's screams were drowned out by the roar of the flames. But the Obsidian Legion was not easily deterred. Their archers took aim, their arrows streaking toward Eldrin. He ducked behind a stone wall, his heart pounding. He knew he couldn't face them alone. "Archers, to me," he shouted, his voice carrying over the chaos. The Aetherian archers rushed to his side, their arrows raining down on the enemy. With their support, Eldrin stepped out from behind the wall and unleashed another fireball, this one striking an enemy tower. The tower crumbled, its defenders fleeing in terror. The battle raged on, the Obsidian Legion's defenses slowly crumbling under the relentless assault of the wizards and their allies. Eldrin moved cautiously across the battlefield, his sharp eyes scanning for his next target. He spotted an enemy catapult, its massive arm poised to launch a deadly projectile. The catapult was heavily guarded, but Eldrin knew it had to be destroyed. He raised his hands, his fingers crackling with energy. The air around him grew hotter, and the ground beneath his boots seemed to shimmer with heat. With a swift motion, he hurled a fireball toward the catapult. The fireball streaked through the air, its flames roaring as it struck its target. The catapult exploded in a shower of splinters and fire, its guards thrown to the ground. But the enemy was not done yet. A group of Obsidian soldiers charged toward Eldrin, their swords raised. He ducked behind a barricade, his heart racing. "Barbarians, to me!" he shouted. The Aetherian barbarians rushed to his side, their axes gleaming in the firelight. With their protection, Eldrin stepped out from behind the barricade and unleashed another fireball, this one striking the enemy's command tent. The explosion lit up the sky, and the enemy's morale shattered. When the dust settled, The Obsidian Legion was in retreat. The battlefield was littered with the remnants of their forces, their black banners trampled underfoot. Eldrin stood amidst the ruins, his blue cloak singed and his boots covered in ash. The other wizards gathered around him, their cloaks billowing in the wind. The Aetherian soldiers cheered, their voices echoing across the battlefield. The king approached, his expression filled with gratitude. "You have done well, Eldrin," he said. "Your fire has saved us all." Eldrin nodded, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon. He knew the battle was over, but the war was far from won. "We will be ready," he said, his voice steady and resolute. As the sun set over the battlefield, casting a golden glow over the ruins, Eldrin tightened his belt and prepared for the battles yet to come. He was the flame of Aetheris, and his fire would burn bright against the darkness. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. If you enjoyed this epic tale of magic and war, please don't forget to click subscribe and share with your friends. Stay tuned for the next chapter as Eldrin's battle against the darkness continues.